The 2020 Giro d'Italia is just around the corner, albeit a long way away from its usual spot on the calendar, and this year's Italian Grand Tour is set to go ahead 7 months after the UCI adopted to suspend all racing because of the global coronavirus pandemic. Normally held in May during the scorching Italian spring, this year's rescheduled race will run from October 3rd to the 25th. And to preview this unusual edition of the Giro, we're going to take a look at the key stages and contenders lining up in Sicily next month. The 2020 Giro will run over 3,495 kilometres across 21 stages, which is just 50 kilometres shorter than the 2019 edition. With stages in Sicily, Emilia-Romagna, Piedmont, Veneto and Friuli Venezia Giulia, the race covers the entire length of Italy before the final stage in Milan. There will be 3 individual time trials, 5 flat days to suit the sprinters, and 6 mountain stages to separate the GC contenders. The race will now start in Sicily with a short 15-kilometre time trial from Monreale to Palermo. While there are likely to be a few small upsets in the opening test, the time gaps are likely to be minimal after this solo start to the race. The Giro returns to the northeastern side of Mount Etna for the 150km stage 3 for the first uphill finish of the race. It's a testing 18.9km long climb with a constant run of hairpins and an average gradient of 6.6%. The final 3 kilometers of the climb averages 9% and finishes at 1,775 meters above sea level, which is high enough that it might just get some riders feeling a shortness of breath. Day 9's 208km stage from San Salvo to Roccaraso should prove to be the next decisive moment in the race. With a deceptive profile that gains 4,000 meters of elevation, it is primed for some GC ambushes. The stage features 4 categorized climbs, including the Passo Lanciano, the Passo San Leonard, and the Bosco di Sant'Antonio, before the first category climb to Roccaraso. It's 10 kilometers in length with an average gradient of 5.7%, ramping up in the final 2 kilometers to 7%. Stage 14 sees the riders tested against the clock for the second time. The 34-kilometer stage from Conegliano to Valdobbiadene features a Category 4 climb with a maximum gradient of 19% and a technical final kilometer with a 5.5% incline. It's a stage that will certainly suit riders like Geraint Thomas, who are capable climbers and TT riders. In a final week with multiple climbing stages, the 198km stage 20 from Alba to Sestriere stands out as the toughest of the bunch. Riders face 4 huge categorized climbs and a total of 5,000 meters of elevation, starting with the monstrous Col d'Agnello before crossing the border into France for the Col d'Izoard, with the Mont Genèvre and the Sestriere climbs closing out the stage. Stage 21's 15.6km pan-flat individual time trial from Cernusco sul Naviglio to Milan will be exciting because of the fireworks that precede it on stage 20, where the GC riders that aren't strong against the clock will be desperate to gain an advantage on the race's final mountain stage. Expect a strong showing from any TT riders who have been able to take it easy and rest over the last few mountains. But the real story will be in the GC battle. If the time gaps in the top 10 are minimal, we could see some major shake-ups in the top of the standings. The 2020 sees Peter Sagan make his debut appearance at the Giro d'Italia, and with 5 completely flat days and a few hillier opportunities, it's a good opportunity for him to claim the full set of Grand Tour stage victories, or even the points classification. Post-Tour form depending, of course. Caleb Ewan is also expected to race in Italy, having been on form at the Tour de France, and expect Fernando Gaviria and Arnaud Démare to both be taking their Grand Tour opportunity. The 2020 Giro looks set to fly under the radar as most Grand Tour contenders opted to prioritise the Tour de France during a very uncertain season. However, crashes and upsets in the pre-tour races means the Giro start list has got a lot more exciting. Perhaps the most surprising inclusion in the Giro start list is Geraint Thomas, who'd initially been expected to race the Tour in support of Egan Bernal. But after struggling through the Dauphiné, the Ineos Grenadiers opted not to take Thomas to France, and instead he'll be leading the squad in Italy following the strong show of form at Tirreno Adriatico, where he finished second in the overall to Simon Yates. However, Simon Yates also lines up in Sicily to start the Giro, and based on his form in Tirreno, he's certainly a favourite. The Mitchelton Scott rider has unfinished business in Italy, having led the race for almost 2 weeks back in 2018 before he dramatically fell out of contention just a few days before the end. Chris Froome went on to win that edition with a staggering solo attack. Jumbo-Visma's Stefan Kruijswijk was forced to miss the Tour de France this year due to a shoulder injury he suffered in a crash at the Criterium of the Dauphiné. The Dutchman now carries the leadership duties in Italy for his team, but with his form unknown, it will be interesting to see if he can best his 4th place from 2016. If the Tour is anything to go off, expect him to be backed by a very strong Jumbo-Visma squad. Italy's favourite son Vincenzo Nibali will also be returning in the hopes of repeating past glories. Nibali, a double Giro winner, may be one of the older GC contenders at 35, but his results speak for themselves. Nibali may no longer be an outright favourite to claim the pink jersey, but never count him out, as last year he finished second in the Giro behind Richard Carapaz. Now, reigning champion Richard Carapaz is still an unknown quantity as we record this. Initially slated to lead the Ineos Grenadiers in Italy to defend his title, he was eventually drafted in to bolster the squad behind Egan Bernal at the Tour de France. Following Ineos' Tour disappointment, it's currently unclear if Carapaz heads to Italy. And even if he does, you could expect his form to be compromised from 3 weeks of tough racing in France. You can keep up with all the action from the Giro d'Italia in Cycling Weekly and online at cyclingweekly.com. And don't forget to let us know who you think will win this year's race in the comments section below.